Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
Yeah, and you can't just focus on the top line of, hey, can we increase revenue, because you're going to hit a ceiling, right?
Yeah.
You can't just keep doing, like, if you put a keypad on your door, it's not, I don't think people are going to be paying an extra $5 a month because of it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, I so didn't want to carry keys. Like, there's some convenience factor, absolutely. But at the end of the day, when you look more on the expense side, that really is one of the main driving forces behind why our properties did all keyless entry. Because the amount of time when you actually look at when you go back and you do the historic review of your work orders, and this is another benefit of the bigger organizations, you can track better, right? You have more data to pull from. And I think as smaller operators, we need to leverage that knowledge as much as we can, because they've already done the testing, right? They've already done the split testing of how long does it take to rekey a lock? How long does it take to, dig a key out of a lock that somebody snapped off? Or, you end up having to change out the whole cylinder and all that. Like, when you're dealing with hundreds of units, it's a time suck, right? And if you're paying, let's say you're paying a maintenance tech $30 an hour, and it takes them an hour to deal with all that, that's $30 in expense that unit had. Now you put a keyless lock on there and somebody gets locked out. And if you have a full smart system, it's checking your app and unlocking the door remotely or reissuing another code. And it cost you maybe 5-10 minutes. You know what I mean? So now you're under $10. So you just saved $20. You added $20 to your bottom line. So whether it's an additional revenue or a savings in the expense side, it still has the same net effect of improving your NOI. So you have to look at it from both sides, not just look at the big glitzy, what can generate the most money, but what can save on expenses. Getting rid of carpet and going with LVP. It's not just because it's the fad thing to do. It's because carpets have a shorter life expectancy. And I don't know many people that see a stain in the middle of the floor and they cut out that square and just patch it in. You don't do that, right? But if you have an LVP floor and one of those planks gets damaged, guess what? You cut the plank out, you put a new plank down, it doesn't stand out as much. And then you can re-wax the entire floor and it looks uniform again anyway. So again, it's an expense line, right? It might cost more to put the plank down. You'll get more life out of it, and it makes repairs so much better and cheaper down the road.
Love that, man. And that was actually something that I kind of wanted to pick your brain about as well. It was kind of funny, like how we segmented that into that anyway. It's kind of like the tech side in like today's day and age of like, like the keyless entry. Did you kind of see anything in like the REIT worlds in regards to like sensors and like anything like builds and automation, like anything like that? By any chance?
Yeah, probably one of my biggest projects was improved drastically after a risk assessment was performed. This is I could give you so many examples of technology saving our bacon, but I'll give you one which is probably the most like in my face at the time. So we had a building that ended up taking on water from a variety of possible reasons, but regardless, we got water into the basement of our building. Yeah. In this building, we had all of our electrical gear. And this isn't just an outlet, right? This is the entire switch gear of a multi-hundred unit Class A property. Yeah. Water got in, right? And it was water getting into a room that was never designed to have water in it, right? So that's not a good situation. And it, of course, happened at 2:00 in the morning. So it was an extremely expensive insurance claim. It was a very long project to put back together, But the benefit that came out of it is after that project was done, I put cameras in this room. I put a leak detection rope around the entire perimeter of this room and tied it to the building's BMS, the building management system.
Nice.
That building management system was tied to my cell phone. So if anybody like spilt a drop of water on this perimeter line at any time, doesn't matter what, I would get an instant alert text. The front desk would get an alert text because they were 24 hours a day. And there was a process that I had put in place that if you get this text, you pull up that camera and you check if there's water in that basement. You check the panel, it tells you where, because we had it mapped out. So if it told you that there was a leak at 57 feet, you could look at the map that I had created and know 57 feet is on this wall and it's like between two pieces of equipment or whatever it is. So you could really hone in on it, get all that data, and then call the on-call service guy and say, look, we have an emergency, you need to get down here. And then we could hopefully fix it before we ended up with 3 feet of water in an electrical room. Right.
Yeah.
So 100% technology. It was unfortunately a hard learned lesson, right? Because this room was never designed to allow water, and by some chance it did. And now we had to make sure that we put every possible belt and suspender we could on this property, so we'd never incur a loss like that ever again. The other technology experience I had that was really beneficial was a new construction, new development building. And we had all smart sensors. We had smart leak detection. So we had water sensors in our AC closets. We had water sensors we had a combination domestic and heat system. So you'd have domestic hot water and your radiant heat being filtered from this one combination unit. So we had a water sensor in there. And our laundry machines also had a water sensor that would trip, so that if water hit that pan, it would shut the power off and it would shut the water off to the laundry machine. Nice. So let's say a hose blew out the back of your washing machine, it hit that sensor would automatically shut the power down and shut the water off to the laundry to make sure that you didn't continue to flood out that unit. So in a new construction building, having all those systems operated, we found all of the air conditioners that were not operating properly, because we also had smart thermostats. And I could pull up a report, and I'd set my parameter and say, what units have over 60% humidity right now? And I'd pull it up and be like, oh, okay, crap. Like there's a handful of units that are 60% humid or more. So we could then target those units, go up to the roof, check the rooftop units. We found like shorted circuits. We found wires that were chewed through by
mice,
pests, things like that. So we could troubleshoot all that stuff without waiting for it to be a service call from a tenant, right? And as a vacant building, we could also control our utility costs by turning up and turning down the units, turning on and turning off the lights as we needed to make things, work for us, so that we weren't just drawing energy in a vacant property. Because when you have over 100 units and you forget to turn the light off of 100 units, it adds up. And if you have a vacant building, that's your expense, and that can be pretty expensive. And if you have an air conditioning unit that is continually trying to cool a room that is overly humid, and then you find out that your condensate pump is completely failed and it's somehow bypassed the system, or we found situations where the water sensor, because it was so sensitive, if the water sensor tripped, it would shut down the condenser, right? So you wouldn't get any cooling effect at all. And other conditions during construction, that water sensor maybe landed on a piece of debris tucked in this closet, and we didn't know that. So we wouldn't find out that the sensor would trip until there was 3 inches of water in this closet. And when 3 inches of water shows up in an HVAC closet, your drywall is now saturated and been saturated for a while. We didn't catch it till maybe the next day because somebody had elevated this sensor. So we didn't get it until it was too high. And it had gone a couple of days in hot conditions, in dark conditions, in wet conditions. We'd have mold running rampant. So we'd have to go in and do all sorts of cutting of a brand new building, which is not fun. So yes, technology has saved us on numerous occasions. but it comes at a price. You know what I mean? It is expensive to implement, but it does help give you the data that you need to make the right decision.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth Podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.